Well, it's a little after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I spent most of the day out in the cabin baking beans, and I'm just about ready to eat my dinner. I thought I would come outside and do this little shot of the cabin after dark with the light from the lantern shining out through the windows. Anyway, what follows is what I did today. We're making baked beans and watching birds out the window of the cabin. Hello everybody, I'm just about to go out to the cabin and spend a few hours bird watching and whatever. And I thought today I would try something in the Potjie, the cast iron pot that I bought some time ago and still haven't used. I'm going to try to finish baked beans, vegetarian style baked beans. I guess the only thing really different about them is most baked beans have either bacon or salt pork or something in them. Mine won't. All the other ingredients are quite similar. The beans were sitting in a different container overnight. I just poured them in here, but they soaked in water for at least 12 hours and more than doubled in size. Gives you an idea of the difference in the size. That's some dry ones, and this is what they look like once they've soaked for 12 hours. First part of the process is to parboil them, just in the same water that they soaked in. Bring the water to a boil and then simmer for 10 minutes. And while that's happening, I'll get the other ingredients ready in the Potjie. I guess I should have said that I think I started with about 1.5 cups of dry beans, roughly. I didn't really measure them, so I'm not making a full recipe here. This is sort of ad-libbing as I go along, but I like to have some onion in it, and I don't want it all diced up, so I just quarter an onion, peeled and quartered, and then 1/3 cup of molasses. I spray the measuring cup with that cooking spray, cooking oil spray. It makes the molasses come out a little bit better. I guess that will do. And 1/3 cup of brown sugar, lightly packed brown sugar. A teaspoon get it out of here. Teaspoon of dry mustard, and about 1/3 cup of tomato ketchup. The recipes call for salt, 1/2 teaspoon or a teaspoon or whatever, depending on how many beans you're using of salt. I don't add salt to mine until they are almost completely cooked. If you put salt in now, you won't get the beans to get as nice and soft as I like them. Salt in the cooking process for dried beans for some reason keeps them a little bit on the hard side, so I add my salt as the last thing when they're almost finished. Some freshly ground black pepper, and that is it. The beans have just come to a boil, so 10 minutes from now I will mix the beans in with this and be ready to take them out to the cabin. Have been boiling for 10 minutes. Already they smell very good. Just dump them in my Potjie, and some of them on the floor evidently. What I'll do now is just stir the ingredients. Sugar and the molasses and all of that will melt and distribute quite nicely in the boiling hot water. I'll just try to move the onions around into different places. Of course, traditionally baked beans would be done in an oven. I don't think I ever have baked them in an oven. I usually use a slow cooker, and that's what the Potjie is. It's just an older version of the slow cooker. So I'm hoping this will work. Now to take them out and put them on the wood stove and watch them for a few hours and see what happens. Just got the fire lit, waiting for the stove to get hot enough to put the Potjie on it. I thought I'd give you a little look at the setup here for my bird watching. I have my
futon here, my e-book ready to go. The fire is going in the stove. It's warming it up in here slightly. It only went down to 0 last night. That's 32 Fahrenheit, just to freezing, and it has warmed up to 2 degrees outside, and the fire has only been going for a few minutes, but it has it already up to 6 degrees in here, so it's on its way. I don't want to have too big of a fire today because it is relatively mild and the cabin gets far too hot. Anyway, I set my tripod up in the window here, and this camera that I'm holding and taking the video with, a little flip video camcorder that will small enough it'll fit in your shirt pocket, goes on top of the tripod to make things steadier. And that's just outside the window there. That's the bird feeder with a couple of chickadees in it. I've had a great variety of birds. For years now I have fed 4 large crows or ravens every winter. I know it's the same ones because one of them has an injured leg. The leg is still there, but it's up underneath of him or her, and it hops around on one leg, and he has 3 friends with him. Well, a couple of days ago, there was one crow out there, a smaller one, maybe this year's, perhaps offspring of that particular group, I don't know. But it wasn't albino, but it has white feathers over one eye. I doubt if I ever get close enough to get video of them. They're very skittish. Just pass and cross in front of a window. If they see you, they fly away. But I've never seen an albino crow, and as I say, this one isn't albino. It only has a small patch of white feathers above one eye. But interesting. And yesterday I went for a hike. I haven't seen a gray jay or Canada jay, a bird that has many names, also called a gorby or whiskey jack. It's a jay smaller than the blue jay and doesn't have that top knot that the blue jay has on its head. It's shades of white, gray, and black. A very friendly bird. You can easily train them to eat out of your hand, but I have never had them at my feeder that I can recall. I remember seeing them when I was a child growing up on the other end of the island. We used to feed them back then, but I didn't think they were around here. I have a friend not too far from here, a half-hour drive down in Maine, and she feeds a pair of them year-round. They eat out of her hand. Well, yesterday I was out hiking, and this unmistakable call that this bird has. It whistles and caws, and there's just no doubt once you hear it, you're hearing a Canada jay. So I stood still and did see one up in the top of a tree, and it flew off. I would like to think that they would come here to my feeder, and this morning I did see something in the top of a very tall tree, about the same size. I don't think it was a blue jay because there had been a large group of blue jays and they had all flown off, and this bird didn't go with them. So fingers crossed I may yet see a Canada jay here at one of my feeders. Anyway, as soon as things warm up, the stove gets going nicely, I'll put the Potjie on and we'll start cooking those. Fire's going quite nicely, so I'm going to put the Potjie on. It is, well, it's 11:15. I'm assuming this will take 4 or 5 hours anyway. I may not be out here at the cabin all that long, but I'll come back and check on them. I'm going to remove this burner cover and put the Potjie directly over that hole. There you go. In theory, that way it'll get, there it goes. It fits right down in there nicely. The stove is drawing nicely, so there won't be any smoke come out into the room, and that will put more direct heat on the bottom of the Potjie. I really don't want it to boil, so I'm going to keep the fire going lowly as possible. Just a simmer would be best, and a long, slow simmer will cook them. This wooden thing is detachable, but it makes it so you can pick up the lid no matter how hot it gets, and that's. I'll look down inside at what things look like here. And we'll come back in a few hours and hopefully we'll have baked beans. It's been an hour now. The temperature outside has warmed up to 5 degrees, and inside the stove has got the room warmed up to 17 degrees, which is quite comfortable sitting here reading and listening to the radio. I can't play the radio when I'm doing the DVDs or YouTube throws a fit because I don't have permission to use the copyrighted material, so no music in the background here. But anyway, I just checked inside the Potjie. The smell is wonderful. It's filling the room, the smell of onions and molasses and beans or whatever. Very nice. And if you can see in the center there, it is bubbling just a little bit, and that's how I would like it to continue, just to continue to simmer. And hopefully a lot of the moisture will be, the water, whatever juice will be absorbed by the beans and given off in steam throughout the rest of the cooking process. But I think this is going to work. It's starting off nicely anyway. I'll come back in a little while and see what they look like. Pet squirrel is back. He's eating off the ground today. Hasn't been up in the feeder yet. But a few days ago I've brought out a suet feeder and attached it to the bird table. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, it's a plastic covered wire cage, and you can buy cakes of suet mixed with bird seeds and peanut butter and berries and all kinds of things to put in the feeder. The birds like to have the suet in the cold weather. Well, for 2 or 3 days it worked quite nicely. I could see where the birds were picking away at it. And then yesterday I came out, suet, bird feeder, and all were gone. I have no idea. I've searched all around out here. Something took the whole thing. I don't think the little squirrel could have carried that off, so perhaps I've had visits by a raccoon or something. But anyway, I guess I won't be putting any more suet feeders out here at this feeder. Well, while I was up to the house for lunch, I mixed up a small amount of bread dough, just a cup of flour, some water, and salt, and a teaspoon or so of yeast, I guess. I'm going to have, along with my beans for dinner this evening, I hope to have, anyway, another one of our local, I don't know if I'd call it delicacies or not, but another one of our comfort foods here, I guess, something that was very popular when I was a child and is still served in some of the local restaurants here. Fried dough. And I'll show you what that's like later on. There's the dough has risen once and I've knocked it back down. I'll put it in a warm place and let it rise again. This is my gas lamp once again here. I'm having difficulty getting enough heat out of the stovetop to really brown my fried dough, but it is cooking, so shortly dinner will be ready. Well, it's now 7 p.m. and I guess dinner is ready to serve. In the last hour of cooking the beans, I added a vegetarian sausage. Just added it in with the beans to cook it through, warm it up, very good. Try some of these beans. Very nice. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'll see if I can get this up on YouTube. Fried dough is normally a much more golden brown. This is starting to get a bit brown. It is actually cooked, but the stove isn't hot enough, at least not right now, to make it a nice golden brown. But the beans are excellent. This is my second helping. It's also my second piece of the fried dough. Normally the fried dough eaten by itself with either molasses or maple syrup or pancake syrup. It's sort of a local thing, goes back many, many years, I guess, to when people used to make all of their own bread here. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and that really is the end this time.